Create is one of the greatest mods that Minecraft has to offer. And in addition to all the machines and the decorations and the buildings you can make, there are a few life hacks that I'd love to share with you right now. Life hack number one is super easy and comes in for all the early game playthroughs of Create, where you just need a lot of wood. Chopping trees individually is boring, it takes a while, you don't want to do it, you have to wait for the leaves. Well, all you need is a mechanical saw and a hand crank, and having a wrench makes everything easier in Create. You gotta just shift right click your saw onto the bottom log of a tree, pop a hand crank onto it, give it a little bit of a spin, and in just mere seconds the entire tree goes down. And having the wrench, if you shift right click both of those, you can pick them up immediately and just run on to the next tree. This is the fastest way to manually cut down trees in Create mod. So convenient. And yes, it even works on the big 2x2 trees. So if you ever find yourself with a random giant tree in the middle of a birch forest, you just need to knock out 3 of the bottom logs. The saw only needs to cut down the final log. And so for the cost of 3 manual logs, you can break an entire giant jungle tree. All the wood falls in a cute little line. You can see over there the saplings drop. I mean, this is just, we're starting off with a bang. Tip number 2 is very similar to tip number 1, coming in with the mechanical drill, which acts as all the way up to a diamond pickaxe, in fact. Similarly, shift right click it onto whatever you want, give it a little twirl and spin, and although it's not the fastest way to do it, it will break these blocks. It'll break any block for you, but the big one is like if you want to save durability on your pickaxes while you're mining. It especially works really well if you don't yet have a lot of iron, since the setup requires very little iron, and you can mine your diamonds with it. So even if you need an iron pickaxe, this will work. And yes, this does work on obsidian, except it is extremely slow. Alright, ignoring the fact that I am starving to death, and maybe it isn't the best idea to do this, you can mine obsidian with something that only requires a little bit of iron, which does make it very powerful. It allows you to skip diamonds, or if you only found like 2 diamonds, you can get yourself an enchanting table. I wouldn't recommend it for building a whole portal. I would just use peat strats there, but alright, on to tip number 3, after I've eaten something. For life hack number 3, we're going to be talking about gearboxes. The life hacks moving on, we're going to be very machine-focused life hacks. And starting with gearboxes. Though their typical function is to just send rotational power in different directions, they can do a lot more. Mainly because of their ability to reverse the rotational force they take in, they're really quite good at doing this inverse belt line, which is great for these little machines where you want to create a bit of a loop. The mill is here, you have the input items coming in, the output items coming in, and it's super clean, just one thing controlling the entire contraption. And even over here, we have a vertical gearbox powering the bottom of our millstone. That also means you can make a really nice and compact setup to get the crushing wheel set up, which is an early game conundrum. Just 2 gearboxes like so. They'll reverse the direction and give you some nice crushing action. And speaking of crushing wheels, these guys take a lot of SU. And say you want to gear ratio your crushing wheels to make sure you're crushing as fast as possible. Well, gearboxes are super helpful because they expose parts of your rotational network. So we could put anything that gives an additional 256 SU and put it on, and the network will absorb those stress units. So gearboxes are great for exposing your network to other forms of stress units, more so than just machines. Life hack number 4 has to do with these encased chain drives. Many of you are going to know that they're able to transfer power in, this kind of way. They all spin in the same direction. You could do it horizontally. You could, of course, do it like so. They're very super useful. But did you know they could actually do the job of gearboxes, but cheaper? Yes, indeed. They can turn horizontal rotations and move them up and even twist them around. And they can turn a horizontal rotation into a vertical rotation. So if you've ever come into a really annoying, situation where, you're 1 block above or below, these guys will fix it. And if you ever need to do something where you need to twist around your rotational force, these can actually do that for you, which is really cool because they are cheaper than gearboxes. So sometimes it's more desirable to use these to move your power around. And once you know how to move your power around, let's go on to life hack number 5, the big Water wheels. This is a new create thing. It's just these. Look at this. It's 512 stress units no matter how many blocks of water are flowing and touching it. It does kind of have to be 3 so you don't obscure any part of this, but legitimately this is it. You don't need to do any big complicated setups. They are just these enormous powerhouses of SU, and in this recent update of Create, they have removed the ability for water wheels, the regular one, to be super powerful. Just to demonstrate, and many of you are going to know this old trick where if you had a water wheel on the floor with one thing in the corner, it would spin faster and have 312 stress units, but that is no longer the case. That was replaced by these big boys who do 512 stress units. So they're just kind of a create life hack, and they cost only 8 planks more than a regular water wheel. I mean, if you're not using these, I mean, what are you doing? That being said, they are pretty slow, so life hack number 6 has to do with gear ratioing, and not this kind of gear ratio, because we all know the classic gear ratio, right? That's still slow, so you got to do it again, and immediately this is ugly, it's huge, it takes up so much space, and it turns this really amazing thing into just kind of a really cumbersome device. So, life hack number 6 is that you could actually put a casing on the big cogwheel in order to not have to use a shaft, and suddenly these become really, really cool and really, really small. It's half the size. You could use brass casings or andesite casings, and I mean, it's aesthetically pleasing. This looks really cool, at least in my opinion. I think this thing just looks so neat when it's all casing up, so I like it. Life hack number 7 has to do with our friend, the Windmill. We all know the Windmill can supply SU, but did you know that it can actually function as a fully functional rotating farm? That's right, it's a little slow, but as you can see, this thing trucks along. This is a bamboo farm, but any spinning farm would work. It is complete with storage as well as rotational force. We even have a portable storage that I forgot to glue to it. 1 second. Always glue your contraptions, kids. But you'll see that it will connect as a portable storage, and it will deposit the bamboo inside of it. And it does even output a rotational force in addition to all of this. So if you want to not only produce SU, but use it in some efficient way, you can make a windmill machine. And yes, you can take the sails, you can add even more to produce more stress units, to produce more speed. So if I add, I don't know, 4 more rows to this. Whoop, there we go. I don't know if Optifine causes these bugs, by the way, but you can see we have a floating hand too. But anyways, I digress. You can see it is a little bit faster now that we have more sails. Oh, it's a lot a bit faster, and it is spinning quicker. So this is a really, efficient use if you don't mind having, a giant wall of sails. Our next life hack number 8, one of my personal favorites, has to do with the item vaults. We know that they can store items, and they can be long, and they can be big, but did you know that they could actually help you make precision mechanisms? Yes, they are perfect for these sort of looped contraptions, the ones where you need to do something over and over again, and all they require is the normal amount of deployers, the resources you'd normally put into it, and 2 of the brass funnels, or, well, this one could be andesite, but anyways, the vault, right? You make the long vault, you have an intake funnel here, or rather a funnel that spits out here, and a funnel that takes in here. What you're going to filter in the funnel is an allow list of whatever incomplete mechanism it is, and make sure you're ignoring the data. So this will accept all incomplete precision mechanisms. And legitimately, all you have to do is grab yourselves gold sheets. I mean, I'll grab 5 gold sheets and toss them on the belt, and you can see it is going to start creating the incomplete mechanisms, which will go into the vault, and once there is space, will be spat out of the vault again, and they will loop over and over and over until you get a completed precision mechanism. There we go, the completed ones are starting to come in, and you can see with no additional belts or item transportation or any messing around with that kind of stuff, we have a totally automatic loop system for creating precision mechanisms. It's so easy, it's so nice. And it even works if you end up getting unlucky and having a scrap. We were actually pretty lucky and got all 5 of them. It will still work. That will not break the system. This next life hack is something most of you have probably heard about, but I still just needed to mention it. There's an empty lot here, and I want to fill it with a build, but I've made that build on another world. there is something you can do to actually transfer build, sort of, between two worlds, and it is this lovely thing, very hard to spell sometimes, called the schematic cannon and the schematic table. This guy is amazing, but to show off its power, I have to hop into another world. And just to show it off, I will be going into this world that I've called Schematic. It's also a super flat world, so I don't think anyone would assume I was cheating here, but just to make sure. And you can see I have my masterpiece build complete with mechanisms, an amazing door, and just general coziness and a homey space. And this is something that took me hours, maybe days, weeks even to build, and I don't want to transfer it by hand. Well, the schematic system and schematic cannon will help you with that. You just need to get a schematic and quill from whatever world houses your schematic, and you're going to want to make sure that you can do a box selection, so just kind of mark out the bounds of your incredible and wonderful build with some block. You'll be breaking it later. And when you hold, you get this nice little hover preview. Just right-click one of the bounds, and then the other, and there you go. And just punch out your bounding box markers. Make sure all of your lovely creation is stored within the schematic, and give it a right-click. Name it Masterpiece. Very nice. And that has saved this schematic. Now, I could use this schematic again in this world to copy it, or I could jump back to our quality of life world. Back in the land of our quality of life, with an empty schematic, we can place that inside of the schematic table, make sure we've selected our masterpiece schematic, load it, and place it wherever we want. So I want it to fill this empty space. Beautiful. You can actually, you can move it in all these different ways with this control. It's very, very, very cool, very intuitive. But I think I'll just place it right here. I like where that is. And we're just going to feed this to our schematic cannon, but the preview goes away, and we don't know what we need for it. Well, if you grab yourself any book, it could be a book and quill or just a regular book, and feed it to this hole in the schematic cannon at this kind of, come on, go away, new recipes. There we go. It produces a material checklist to tell you exactly what you need, so you just have to take yourself some chests and fill this chest up, as long as it's next to the schematic cannon, with the items you need. Once you think you've got everything you need, you can actually put the book back in, and it will recheck the materials for you. And you can see I actually was missing a millstone, a door, a large cogwheel, and a gearbox. And once you've got those items, run it through again, you'll get all checks, and you'll know you're ready. The last thing you need to do is feed the cannon some gunpowder and press play, and it will begin cannoning all the items out of the chest onto the ground, and you can watch as your beautiful build is built in real time. There we go. And you can even see with the creative motor, it remembered which way it was spinning, how fast it was spinning. So this works with machines and everything, and it is an exact perfect replica from your other world. And what's even cooler is if you're not feeling like building anything yourself, in the schematic table, if you click this open folder button, it will open up the physical folder that the NBT files are stored in, and you can actually download files off of the internet and store them in this folder and have access to them. Just, always be careful when downloading files off the internet, don't get viruses or whatnot, but still an amazing way for people to share their builds all over the world. And for my final life hack, one that I've been using this entire episode, the checklist. It is a new thing, and I used it to plan the entire episode. It allows you to type, it allows you to check, there's other pages. You could say, have fun. That's always a requirement for create. Check that off. We've already had fun, but it is really an amazing way to take in-game and detailed notes. It's bigger than a book. It's got a little bit more functionality, and genuinely, I find it so useful. So that is 10 life hacks for create. If you enjoyed the episode, do let me know in the comments. This is obviously a deviation from the sort of videos that I make, and I want to know that you guys want it, because if you want it, I'll make more, and if you don't want it, well, I won't make more. But thank you for watching. Outro, outro, outro. Subscribe to my channel because I'm awesome. And let's go thank the sponsors.